And this is God's house, and it's a pleasure and a joy to be here this morning to see the wonderful work you do. I do know a bit about the background of the work you do, and my thanks go out to every and each one of you, because in the current climate, it's not easy. Everyone has issues, everyone's got difficulties, and we talk about God, we talk about family. It's working together that will make a difference. You can't survive on your own, you can't live on your own, you can't work on your own. You take a step backwards when you're on your own, but when we join forces, when we work together, when there's love, when there's respect, you move forward. So it's a real honour to be here this morning with you've got similar views, you've got a similar vision, you've got similar aspirations, your perception is the same as myself. When you mention my theme as a family, I do take that very, very seriously, because I think it's very important. Pastor Jones mentioned the family, and it's natural and it's normal to raise children and then expect them to look after you as well. We've lost that in our current communities, in our current society, and it's not because we've done it for the wrong reasons. It's because of the work environment. The culture's changing, but I think we've got to get that culture back, that thinking back, where we have the children, we look after them, we raise them, and when we grow older, we give them the opportunity to look after us, live with us, respect us as well, because that's what it's all about at the end of the day, and we can't do that. I know I attended the service sometime in July, and then the children came to the Mayor's Parlour. I hope they found it very helpful and useful, because the reason why I was keen to invite the youngsters and the families was actually I wanted to give them an insight into how the leadership, how the mayoralty works in our city, in our council, because some of the communities have never been into the Mayor's Parlour, and we as elected members, we live on the third floor, and we take it for granted that everyone knows the mayor is there, the leader is there, the officers are there, and everyone's involved, everyone's sharing information, but it's not always the case. So, we take things for granted. So when I was appointed as mayor, 15th of May, sat down with the officers, and some of the things they told me that, certain communities have never been into the Mayor's Parlour. That really sort of shocked me and surprised me, because, like I said, I took things for granted. But I've sort of tried to change things since being in office by inviting the community and going out into the community. I've lived in Wolverhampton since the age of 5. Some of the communities, some of the churches, some of the organisations, I wasn't even aware they were on our doorstep. They were in front of me. I couldn't see them for some reason. So it's given me a real insight to our city, our communities, our people. The theme this morning is the man, his vision, his purpose, his destiny. And I want to connect that to the family, but I also want to connect that to the church and God as well, because they are, in my opinion, very, very closely linked. Without God, we can't do anything. Who are we? Where do we come from? Where are we? Where are we going? Without God, nothing is possible. I just want to give you two quotes first. Life is not about standing still, it's about moving on. Never dwell over what you don't have. Just be thankful that you are fit, healthy, and can move about, because there's always someone worse off than you. I think for that we have to be grateful to God. You know, health, physically, and a healthy mind is very, very important, because without those two aspects, we can't even help ourselves, never mind about helping the youngsters, community, anyone in society. We can't help them. So what is the vision? What's the purpose? Why do we want to get involved in the community? If I like to turn that around, what do we want out of the community? Do we want something out of the community, or do we want to put something into the community? There is a big difference, because people, as you're probably aware, do things for different reasons. And I think when you think about it, you know, do you want to get something out of it, or do you want to put something in? And you know, there isn't a right reason and there isn't a wrong reason, because you can actually take something out of the community, because if it's going to help you, it's going to improve you, why not? What's wrong with it? Nothing. And I will give you examples when I highlight the background. Pastor James, how are we doing for time? Are we all right for time? Okay. So what are the reasons for getting involved? I think for that, you have to go back to your family, your background, your values, your beliefs, your role, your responsibilities, your perceptions. All these are your life's building blocks. They make who you are, what you are. And the key question we have to ask, who am I, who are we? Because that determines how you will move forward in the community, in society. It's very, very important. And that is linked to two things, like I mentioned earlier on: the family and God. The family, as I stated, as we've spoken about, is very, very important. I want to share with you my background, because the current situation is very similar to when we first came over to Wolverhampton in the 60s. My dad came to Wolverhampton, or to the UK, in 1963. And some of you will be aware that the conditions weren't actually brilliant at that time. When the Asian and the Afro-Caribbean communities came in the 60s, times were really difficult, times were hard. They found it difficult to get jobs. Yes, they did find jobs in the factories and the foundries, but a lot of the people came with skills, with education, and they couldn't actually get the jobs to the ability and the skills they had obtained over the years. So they had to settle for second tier, third tier, fourth tier jobs. So life wasn't easy in the 60s. Living conditions, well, when they came, my dad, he lived in Park Village in Whitmorees. And in those days, it was difficult to get loans from the banks because you was black. The banks wouldn't loan you money. You had to borrow money. Guess where from? Your family, your friends. they were the banks at that time. And you didn't have to sign a piece of paper as well. It was trust, respect, faith. You know, that was the key thing. Nowadays, if you want to go and get a loan, you have to sign 100 papers. You have to take your ID, you have to take your passport. You know, it's never ending. But in those days, it was, you know, the respect and the trust that did the work. And the families who came in the 60s, we lived with an Afro-Caribbean family in Newbridge Street in Wickmore Reeves. My dad and the Afro-Caribbean family, they actually bought the house together. They shared the house together. There were no locks on the doors, one toilet, one kitchen. You know, that you wouldn't have that now. You couldn't leave your windows open now, you couldn't, never mind the front door, you can't leave the windows open. But then, and I grew up in that environment, we cooked, as you know, Asians like curries, and the Afro-Caribbean family like curries as well. Lamb, goat, yam, all those foods, we ate them, we shared them. So, you know, that was our family at that particular time. We helped each other. They took me to school. I was only about 5 years of age at that time, 5, 6, 7. And we lived together. What did we have? We had love. We had respect, we had trust. You know, 3 key things in a family environment, in a community, in society. So we grew up, I have 4 sisters. My parents, my dad worked as a crane driver for GKN in Telford, and he did all the hours he could get. Overtime, you know, 7 days. If he could get it, he would do it. Because he wanted the best for his children at that particular time, because he was actually a teacher in India. And, you know, obviously we don't have the time today, but sometime in the future I'll tell you my family background. My grandfather didn't want him to come to the UK because in India he was a teacher, and they had a lot of land. They had about 200 acres of land, and he said, well, you don't have to go abroad to earn a living, you can work here. You know, you're set for the rest of your life. But he didn't. He wanted to explore, because all his friends went to the UK, America, Canada, and so on. So he came. And he came with £5 note, as you're probably aware. In those days, that was the only thing they had. And then friends and family were here. They helped him get a job, helped him get a room, bought the house together. And then when it came to the children, he wanted a good education for all of his children, because he thought that whatever happens in life, you can make money, you can lose money, but education stays with you for the rest of your life. No one can take it, no one can steal it, you can't lose it. It will always help you. So he was keen for us to go to school, college, university, and we did. That was his aim in life. That was his key objective in his life. And getting an education helped us shape into what we are today, where we are today. As George said, we've got mayors in the audience. Yes, we have, because if we look after them, we treat them right, they will become somebody or something in the future. That should be our aim for our youngsters, for our community, for our society. We want everyone to be successful. We want everyone to get a position to the best of their ability. So that will make a difference to our communities. And when we talk about the vision, the purpose and destiny, that's what it's all about. Because without having aims and objectives, we are nothing at all. So how do we get involved? I've just given you some of the key aims and areas that we need to be aware with our communities. We need to look after them. We need to give them values. We need to give them beliefs. We need to give them a role in our community and society. We need to give them responsibilities. That's how you build up an individual. That's where the family comes in, and that's where God comes in as well, because without God's help you can't achieve all those aims and objectives. And then we go back to the question, who am I? Again, that's down to the family and God as well. You know, family and God, who am I? If you have the belief in God, you will achieve something. If you have the belief and the respect of the family, and for the family as well, you know, you will find out who you are, where you come from, where you are, and where you're going. And that is really important to emphasize to our youngsters, to our community. Because if they don't know where they come from, where they are, they won't know where to go, which direction to go. The reason why I picked the family, I think I mentioned in my speeches around the city. You know, working late, going to various meetings, travelling from Warsaw, Dudley, Birmingham, Stafford, Stoke, coming in the car on any high street, you will see youngsters, girls as well, very young girls, hanging around on street corners, walking on the street corners, in little groups. And I used to think, well, where are the parents? Where is the family? I've got 2 boys, going back to my family. We, the Marys and myself, my mum and dad, we would never let our boys go out on their own. So why should these girls be out on their own? And I felt really strongly, and when I go into the community, when people come to seek help and advice from us as counsellors, you know, we start talking, we go into people's houses, we start talking, well, you know, what do the young children do, where are they? And some of the responses are so negative, so depressing. You know, it gets me worked up, and you think, look, you are the parent, you've got to take your role, you've got to take your responsibility serious. Councillor Jasper, well, we can't do this, we can't do that. I said, no. What are you going to put into the community? What are you going to put into the society? You know, if we mentioned, do you want something out of it, or do you want to get something out of it? It's back to that thinking again. And then trying to sort of explain to them, no, you know, these are your children, they are your responsibility, you look after them, you maintain them. One day they will do the same for you. Going back to Pastor Jones said, we want our youngsters to look after them. That's how you do it, you know, and we don't put enough pressure, we don't emphasize enough to the youngsters what their roles, what their responsibilities, what their duty is. If they go on the wrong path, if they go in the wrong direction,